Hello there, guys. Film review numero 3. And tonight is a film called The Woman in the Yard. It is based around a family who has just lost the father figure in a tragic accident. Early on in the film, it sort of informed that he was driving on a wet road and lost control and died. The woman appears mournful and is replaying memories over and over on her phone. There's clever little situations that sort of build it up, like there's a lack of power, which means they can't make phone calls and various other things, which helps with the narrative of the film. So it revolves, there's 3 sort of main actors in this, plus the woman in the yard herself. The actors are the mum, the son and the daughter, and all 3 of them do a pretty good job, to be fair. The acting isn't really the issue with this film. The issue more is the message it's sending and the imagery it's using to maybe portray suicidal ideation. I'm someone who battles suicide thoughts quite a lot with my conditions, and it is dark, it is creepy, and it is sort of dangerous and violent thoughts in your head. How they portrayed it here was a bit weird, really. I don't think it was particularly well thought out. I thought it was quite lazy, quite obvious. The twist wasn't any real surprise. I mean, they pretty much zoomed in on the person quite early on, and you could see she was the same sort of skin tone, female around the same age. So it's pretty obvious what the linkage was going to be. It would have been more effective if the face wasn't visible through the veil and she was maybe wearing white gloves or black gloves or anything just to cover anything that gave away a bit too much. I'm a bit bored of horror films not committing to horror. A dog went missing here, but you never saw it dead. I love animals, don't get me wrong, would never see any harm come to it. But I just feel it's a bit of a cop-out if you're going to be doing that and then not really ever show the dog. As well as that, there's she kills some chickens and you do see the dead chickens, so I suppose that was something. But that was about the most horror in the film. There was very lazy, creepy shadow work. The filming of it wasn't particularly well done. The camera work was same old, really. And you see it in £3 horror movies all the time on DVD. This wasn't good enough to be a cinema release on any stretch of the imagination. Suicidal ideation is an important topic that I don't think everyone should understand, because it's not a fun thing to understand. It's nice to maybe be aware that people go through it, because suicide is obviously a very personal and intricate kind of thing that people who have no idea about it don't fully understand. There's a lot of misconceptions. There's a lot of, I don't know how to word it really, because I understand some people's perception of it due to their own personal situation, but for someone going through it, it's so completely different. So when someone's portraying it, you'd like to be able to relate to it, and in a way I did, but the ending didn't pay it off. It wasn't very well built up. It wasn't very deep in terms of psychological thing. A massive problem as well was it was confusing her ideation with sort of selfishness as well. Didn't really explain why she lied, really. I mean, she lied to protect herself with her kids, which I guess is understandable, but her actions were just a bit bizarre, really. They'd had a fight at a restaurant when they're on a date. She was driving back, saw the figure in the rearview mirror and crashed. It didn't go into any further details like body switching, etc. It was just accepted that that was what was happening, and she was sort of let off. as the passenger. Disappointing, really, with that. I don't know, really. It's having something in your head and like a voice in your head can be very difficult, can be very distracting. So that part of it I was sort of okay with, because I can understand the distraction leading to the crash. The behaviour afterwards, I suppose in a way I understand you're protecting your children and all that. So I could just about move on from that point. But there was no scares in this. There was no jump scares. There was a few loud sort of noises. There wasn't any horror element to it at all. The warning at the start says strong horror. It wasn't. It was a little bit creepy. They did the standard music, which made it a little bit eerie. But there was no horror. There was no jump scares. There was no moments where you were really freaked out. Everything after about half an hour became pretty much expected for anyone who's ever seen a horror movie before. I think I used a important subject matter in the wrong way. Again, when mental health is so important, if you're going to focus on any part of it for your film, I'd suggest you do more research, maybe consult people and try and portray it in a way that doesn't make them seem dangerous as well, because there are a lot of suicidal people out there that might see films like this and they might think that that's how they feel, like it makes them dangerous. But she shouldn't have been like I didn't quite understand why they were portraying her as a danger to her children, because there's it's different with which way it was going with it, because I get it's dark and it's the worst parts of your mind and it's that thought where intrusive thoughts get in. So the incidents of which she was vile to a kid, she did apologise for. So I guess it was portraying it in that manner, but it just didn't really flow properly. It didn't make her look, it didn't really explain her motives or decision making or anything really. The son I felt was underappreciated as the sort of picking up the slack, because it was said that she was in this state for months, and the kid must have been looking after the younger daughter, and there wasn't much appreciation on that side of it. She was quite disrespectful towards him. Things were forgiven quite quickly, which was a bit lazy. I just think it was one of them films, if you bought it for like £3 out of a DVD bin, you'd probably think, oh, this was an all right horror film. I wouldn't call it a horror. I'd call it maybe a supernatural thriller or a psychological thriller, because it had no real horror to it. It just used a lazy horror metaphor or figure to as an sort of overlay to get a message out on the subject that they wanted to talk about. Acting was good. I'd give to be honest, I'd give the acting with what they were given, that was all right. I'd give that a solid 7. The son in particular, I thought was really good. The mom, she reminded me quite similar of like Michonne out of Walking Dead. Just I think it's probably the braids and the style of talking and stuff. I thought she was decent. I didn't really like the story. The story and the dialogue, I'd probably go as low as sort of 3.5 out of 10. Thought it was very basic, very lazy. In terms of like the cinematography, like the imagery, the camera work, everything like that, that's for very lazy, very easy to put together. Not good enough for a cinema release. Mislabeled, and for an overall film where a lot of horrors are very slow burnery and then they pick up at the end, give you a good conclusion and you leave sort of satisfied. This sort of didn't build up very well and didn't leave you satisfied. So for me, I am going to go with a 3.5 out of 10. Not horrific, but not one anyone should pay full price to go and watch in the cinema. Anyway, I hope this finds you well. I hope people start stumbling on more of my videos and like me and help me on my journey to try and get a bit of a better standing in life with my own mental health journey. So anyway, peace, love and happiness, and look after yourselves. Bye.